Shaby, it's Dr. Scott. Has some feedback for you on your Essay 1 draft. I was hoping to chat with you after class yesterday, but there didn't end up being much time. So I'm going to kind of talk to you about some of the major issues that need to happen between now and the revision. And I'm fine with giving you, until maybe the end of this upcoming weekend to get your revision in. But the draft, drafts are meant to be drafty. So a shitty first draft is a fine thing. So here are the big issues. One, in the paragraphs, I'm not only sure what criteria you're talking about. So a film review says, I think the film is good, bad, or it's mixed because there are these criteria that I set up to judge a film, and here's how I think the film did on those criteria. So in the paragraphs, I see you talking about characters, I see you talking about things that happen in the film, but I don't see what the criteria is all the time. So if you're talking about like characters and character development, make it really clear in the paragraph that that's what you're talking about. So in a sentence like, Hillary is kind of a goody-goody who downgrades her brother Roland every chance she gets because he is in a wheelchair, you're kind of summarizing the film, and that happens quite a bit in your review. A sentence to begin that paragraph that might be a little bit more effective might be something like, I thought Hillary Faye was an excellent villain. And so that makes it really clear what your opinion is and what criteria you're looking at. You're looking at the film's villain, its antagonist, and your opinion about it is that you thought that she was good, or maybe you thought she was awful. It doesn't really matter. Your argument, your claim is only as good as the support that you have for it. So if you think that she was a really good villain, you might provide examples of where she did stuff that that was interesting as far as a villain goes. If you thought she wasn't a very good villain, you might explain maybe you thought she was too predictable or something like that. Whatever. But you spend the rest of the paragraph talking about that issue. A lot of the paragraphs, they focus on things that happen in the film, but I don't necessarily see how they're connected to either your opinion or to criteria. So your paragraphs need to have your opinion, needs to be much clearer, and we need to know what criteria it is that we're talking about. A sentence like that tells me, like, okay, the criteria is the film's villain. So that's a really big issue that needs to be addressed. And if you want to talk about that a little bit more over email, or I'll actually be on campus on Thursday and Friday, I'd be happy to chat with you about that. What also needs to happen in the paragraphs, and I don't need to see this everywhere, and I've told the class this a few times, I don't need to see this everywhere, but I do need to see 3 or 4 places in your essay where you have really solid description, where you're describing something in really solid detail, and that detail is helping you make a point in your review. So if you're talking about Hillary Faye, you might get in and really describe in detail that scene where she shoves Mary from behind and tell her that she's full of Christ's love. Funny scene, but also tells you something really kind of important about her character and where she's at that point. You kind of break that down, here's the camera, here's what the camera's looking at, here's the music that's playing. Like you use really solid description to support what it is you have to say about that character, or about that criteria that you're talking about. So you have so I need to see description in places, I need to see good details in places, and I need you discussing how those details connect to that opinion that you have. So if you're using the scene where they try to do that exorcism, you would provide some detail about that scene, and then you would discuss that afterwards and explain why that makes her such a great villain, or whatever point you're trying to make in that paragraph. Other than that, you need quotes from 2 of the reviews that we read, and there's a number of different places where you could do that. A few of the reviews, they talk about Cassandra, they talk about Mary, they talk about Hillary Faye. There's a few reviews that talk about the message in the film. So there's a lot of places that you could include, that you could use for your essay. So right now, I think it's kind of like figuring out what are the criteria you want to talk about. You write about a lot of them in your essay. I need you to kind of focus and actually develop a conversation around maybe 3 of them, or maybe 4 of them at the most. We've got music, we've got stereotypes, we've got the message in the film, we've got characters, we've got character development. Kind of need you to focus on 3 or 4 issues that you really want to talk about and just kind of stick to that and use good detail from the film to support it and explain how that detail helps support your opinion about the film. That's my feedback in a nutshell. If you've got questions, let's chat. Again, I'll be here Thursday and Friday, but my availability is kind of weird, so email me and we'll find a time to chat, or we can chat maybe early next week, but I really want to see you get this essay in by the end of the weekend so you don't have this hanging over your head when we're also working on the second essay. All right. That's it for now, Shaby. I'll talk to you soon.